Hi, I am Pamela Des Barres, and you are watching Ken Boxer Live. Dig it.
Terry Ryken Realtor proudly presents Ken Boxer Live. From the American Riviera in Santa Barbara, California, it's Ken Boxer Live, Santa Barbara's one and only entertainment talk show. Let's welcome the host of the show, Ken Boxer.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. My gosh. Thank you. This is Ken Boxer Live. I'm Ken Boxer. Thank you so much for being here and all of you out there watching. This is our first show for 2018, everybody. This is so nice to be here. Thank you. Santa Barbara's had its share of floods and rain and the flu, right? So we've had to hold back on the productions, but we've been in reruns and rebroadcasting every day for the last 3 months. And so we're so delighted to be here and be back and entertaining everybody. Tonight is no different. We've got such a great show tonight, and I've been looking forward to interviewing our guests for a long time. You may know her as the rock and roll groupie from the 60s and the 70s. She's also, what you may not know, was a musician, actor, author, and a magazine writer. And we've got 5 books, and she's currently doing a 6th coming up. So we have Pamela Des Barres in the house in just a moment. So don't go away, we'll be right back.
Ken Boxer Live is brought to you by the following sponsors. Palazzo Italian Restaurant, where people don't leave there hungry or thirsty. Gustafson Dance, meeting the highest standards in dance training. The Eagle Inn, a family-owned hotel near the beach in Santa Barbara. And now, back to our show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow. Joining us tonight is a woman who has carved her niche into the rock and roll pop culture. Pamela Des Barres is considered one of the most distinguished rock and roll groupies during the 1960s and 70s. Pamela is often remembered as having intimate relations with the likes of, listen to this everybody, Mick Jagger, Jim Morrison, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and Keith Moon. Pamela is also an accomplished musician, author, and a professional speaker. Let's welcome the very lovely and talented Pamela Des Barres, everybody. What an introduction.
Yeah, really. I never slept with Robert Plant. He was a dear friend.
Oh, okay.
I have to clarify these things.
All right. Well, okay. Let's talk about, though, first off, what you're doing now. I mean, we're going to get into the history, but let's talk about what you're doing now.
Well, you can show the book on the bottom there. That's my most recent book. It's called Let It Bleed, How to Write a Rockin' Memoir.
Wow, okay.
I teach women's writing workshops all over this country. Have for 11 years now. Oh, no, sorry, 17. 17 years. And now I also teach in Toronto and London. So this book features a lot of my writer's work, which I'm thrilled about.
Mm-hmm. So you're constantly on tour?
Yeah, I'm always
going
on
to
the road.
different. Are you going to schools or workshops? What is it?
I just create the workshop myself and usually teach at a student's home, or it's a local small business, and it gets all kinds of girls out, and they write their souls, and they feel better about themselves. It's awesome.
And the misconception is, once someone's a groupie, where are they going?
Always
right?
a
Always a
groupie,
groupie. Where are they
right?
going? What are they doing? And here you've written 5 books and going to be writing your 6th book. Can you give us a kind of a heads up of what the 6th book's going to be?
The 6th book is about my spiritual life, which has always been coinciding with my groupie life. And when my agent first tried to sell Sex, God, and Rock and Roll, which is the name of the book, the first publisher said, "What does a groupie know about God?" And I thought, wow, I'm going to tell him. I'm going to tell him what a groupie knows about God. What a stupid thing to say, but meanwhile, it gave me a good chapter title.
Well, talk about, groupie, you mentioned that. I've mentioned it.
Yes.
Did the word come around before you, or was it invented with you?
It was really invented for me, about me, and several other girls doing the same thing at the same time, but there was no word for us, right? Before that, there were Bobby Soxers and fans mainly who just wanted to get an autograph or like look at the person. The groupie wanted to get to know the people. The groupie wanted to spend time with them, you know, get what. I was so inspired by these people, and I felt so, my heart just opened up, and I wanted to be around them. So yes, it was coined for me and girls like me. Well, and I thought, wow, I'm in the dictionary. When I got in the dictionary, it was like, wow, I'm in the dictionary. But you know, it quickly became a negative term. So, you know, I've been fighting for it, trying to defend the G word, I call it, for decades.
But when did this start? How old were you? If you remember your first time of like being a groupie where it just all came about.
Where I met them. I was 16. I lived in the Valley in Reseda, and I would hitchhike over the hill to Hollywood to meet these guys. The first band I met was the Byrds, because I was nuts about one of the members of the band. So the backstage doors of Ciro's faced the Strip, and we were standing around. I was too young to get in to see them, right? So I said, how am I? I've got to see. And there was the backstage doors, and I said, well, I think I'll just knock on those. Why not?
I mean, it was that easy, accessible.
Oh,
now
yeah.
There's like security after layer of security.
You can't do what I did now. We're talking 52 years ago or something. And I knocked on the door, and Roger McGuinn of the Byrds opened the door and handed me a joint, which I didn't smoke yet. I pretended to. And I sat there with the Byrds while they rehearsed to get up on stage, and I got to see them play. And I was, you know, underage, but it did, you know, and that was it. I said, oh my God, I can hang out with them. I can meet them. I can get to know them. You know, music has always been, since I was 8 and discovered Elvis, has always been really a reason for drawing breath for me. Well, I love music.
Tell us, I didn't get, I guess, all the names, and obviously Robert Plant, I was incorrect on. Who were the people you did have relationships with?
Well, that was Jimmy Page, was his partner in crime in Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
So he was my relationship. And I say relationship because I didn't have any one-night stands or anything like that. A lot of groupies do, and I think it's fine. I don't ever put any groupie down. But mine, I had relationships with them because I wanted to. I wanted romance, always wanted love and romance. Watched my mom take care of my dad in the 50s. I wanted to do that with a rock star.
But was it really love? I mean, or
oh yeah.
Were they
certainly on my part.
Well, when they went to the next city.
And they said they loved me.
Well, when they went to the next city, were you always like, I wonder what?
Sometimes they would take me to the next city, and that's when I became a super groupie.
And what would that mean?
Well, they take me on the road.
Okay.
So yeah, so the girl waiting for them in whatever city that was didn't get to see them that night.
Yeah, but was that difficult for you to know that the guy that you wanted, that you idolized, is now going to another city, and perhaps you're not going there, and you know what's probably going to happen there? What happened in Los Angeles,
yeah,
right?
sometimes it hurt, but you know, you have to be a groupie, to be a good groupie, you know these things happen. I mean, they happen in every walk of life anyway. It's more up front in the rock world, at least it was. It's very different now. But yeah, we knew. I mean, we knew. If you're going to choose that lifestyle, you have to accept what goes on with it, within that. Of course, there was no AIDS then, and you know, I mean,
right.
it was like almost, compared to what goes on nowadays, it was like magical paradise, you know.
Right. Well, will the rock star assume that you're going to be going to meet other rock stars?
And I did. What's good for the goose?
Yeah, but that was the time then, right? That the men were doing it. Why not the women?
Yes, that's right. I was a feminist. Groupies were feminists in a huge way.
Yeah,
and for a long time, you know, we were put down as being submissive sluts, you know. And it was so the opposite of that. And I've worked so hard trying to redeem that word for that reason. Because a woman going after what she wants, sometimes against all odds early on, you know, that's what feminism is, really. And nothing is wrong with making love with somebody. That's how we all got here.
Right.
Correct.
Well,
that's how you got here, Ken.
That's how I got here.
Think about
Thanks,
it.
Mom and Dad. But who were, I mentioned this just a moment ago, but I didn't hear the answer. Who have you been intimate with that we would all know in terms of in the rock and roll and out of rock and roll, perhaps? That is famous. that we would know?
It's so interesting to people, isn't it?
We are. Aren't
It's
we
weird.
interested? Are we? Am I the only one? No, we all are.
Mick Jagger was a big one.
Would you like to explain that?
Well, no, he was someone I was crazy about very, very young, someone who turned me on in a big way very young, and I knew one day I would meet him, you know, and but
Well, how did you seduce him? Or
he
did he
seduced
seduce
me.
you? He
Yeah.
seduced you?
See
Okay.
that I looked a certain way. I was in the right place, right time, right look, right everything to have these men come after me, and it changed as the years went on because more and more groupies in the world, and there was more to choose from. Let's put it that way. But when I was early on doing it, it was not that many of us really. The girls who just pursued, I guess you could call it, but I had an all-girl band called the GTOs, Girls Together Outrageously, that Frank Zappa produced. So we had our own band, we had our own group.
And didn't you babysit for his kids?
Yes, I lived with the Zappa family, but Frank was my mentor, and he produced the band. And the guys would come to town from England, especially, and want to meet us because we had a wild reputation. We danced half naked with a lot of groups, and we were wild, crazy girls, right? At least we looked that way. And they wanted to meet us. So they would find Zappa's number somehow, or, we often went to the Whiskey. The Whiskey Go-Go was my home away from home. So I met so many
Jim
bands
Morrison.
that
I
way.
mentioned Jim Morrison. How did that come about? You're meeting Jim.
My girlfriend lived right next door to him. And
That's
I heard the Doors' first record being played very close by. I was very high at the time. And I said, wow, who has that record? What incredibly cool person has the Doors' unreleased record? And I went down there, and really, really stoned. There were a lot of stairs. I had to really and I peeked through the door, and it was Jim Morrison himself playing his own record, singing along with it, right?
Right.
In shirtless, with these black leather pants halfway unzipped. Please. He's the prettiest man in rock and roll next to Elvis. So I
Seduced
gathered myself. No, not that day. I gathered myself and got the strength to go back down. I was kind of shy, believe it or not, and I had just learned to do a back bend. I had just learned how to do it. So, and I had a little bitty dress on as usual. So I walked into his house, totally uninvited, and performed a perfect back bend for him. That's what I did. And while I was in the back bend, I looked up, and his girlfriend was standing over me. And she said, "Get the blankety blank out of my house." So I did. I ran. But he followed me.
That night or that day?
Right then. He wanted to know what I was high on. He was very curious.
Okay. So did you have a long-term relationship with him, or was it short?
Well, no, because he was a one-woman man, right?
Okay.
That he and Pam were together the whole time he was alive. But whenever he would stray, I would hang out with him.
Okay. Now, do groupies compare notes?
Sure.
What are some kind of the things that a groupie would tell another groupie? I'm interested.
Well, for me, it was about romance. I wanted to know, was he kind to you? Was he gentle? Was he... Some of the stuff I'm not going to tell you, okay? But, did he call you back? Did he buy you gifts? I had him buy me all kinds of gifts out on the road. It was so sweet. I'm not talking about anything major, but they were showing you affection, just like any guy. Any man and woman, but mainly men, want to be appreciated for what they do, right? Mm-hmm. So if you truly love, like I did the music, if you just get it, then they want you around. I asked about lyrics. I would sit and, one time Jimmy and Robert came over to my house, my apartment in Hollywood, and had Led Zeppelin 2 with them. And they wanted me to interact with them about the list, the order that the songs were going to come in. That's pretty amazing, heady stuff,
Exactly.
So I was involved in that kind of way, and I helped them dress. the GTOs completely dressed the Alice Cooper band. And even in his movie, Super Duper Alice Cooper, he gives us credit for that.
What's the story that I heard regarding the phallic symbols, that there was plaster of Paris or something, or making the sizes of...
That is Cynthia Plaster-Caster.
You had nothing to do with that?
Well, she's a very dear friend of mine, yes,
Okay.
and I've seen all her casts.
Were they accurate?
Well, they're real. I mean, she takes them from the actual members, so yes, they're accurate.
Okay. You can verify that.
Oh, yes. When I visit her in Chicago, I sleep among the members.
By the way, we have a little montage of some photos of you over a period of time, which we want to go to right now so people can get what you kind of look like in the day of the groupie time.
Okay.
So let's watch. Okay?
All right.
Pamela Des Barres. Is joining us this half hour on our show. Pamela, when you see like the picture of the Robert Plant, obviously he's now aged, and we all age. Is it?
We're the exact same age.
Are you? Okay. Mm-hmm. Is it? If you don't see him for a long time, and your imagination going back, the image of being and seeing him when he was the rock and roller.
He's still a rock and roller.
He's still. I mean, you still get that same feeling when you see the rock and roller who are now aged as opposed to the young?
Of course I do, because it's what's inside these people that I loved. I mean, yes, I mean, yeah, I like the outside too. Okay, when I was younger, of course, but you know, it's what comes from them creatively that moves me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Were they?
And real groupies, yes, they're moved by the music. And of course, there are star effers out there who just want to be there next to them, whatever. That's not a real groupie.
Were any of the people that you were with different than what you'd see in their public life? Were they terrible people that you wanted to see?
No.
Anyone ever
There were
abuse
no
you?
terrible people.
Anyone ever abuse you?
No.
No, okay.
I was never abused.
You unscathed by that.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me that. And sorry, guys, no Me Too for me. I was always in really good company. I was never taken advantage of, or you know, so I got my heart broken, but we all do.
Well, once you left one of the rock stars, were you able to just then go to another? I mean, was it just one right after another?
When you left one girl, did you
well,
go to the next girl?
You haven't told us. You've just told us a few. I wonder how many.
Keith Moon was another one of my main squeezes.
Okay.
He was in The Who. He was the drummer.
Of course. And passed away.
Known as the wildest man in rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I spent a lot of quality time with Keith, and I was his main squeeze for a long time.
You travel with him?
No, I did not travel with Keith, but he was in LA a lot.
Okay.
So you know, he lived in LA part-time. So.
Okay.
And Waylon Jennings was another one.
Yeah.
He was my country dude.
Yeah. Where did that happen? How long ago was that?
Graham Parsons turned me on to him. Graham Parsons of the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers, one of my heroes of all time. In fact, I used to come here to Santa Barbara quite a bit to visit his girl at the time, and his baby daughter Polly lived here.
Okay.
And she's my goddaughter right now. Yeah. Okay. I love Santa Barbara.
Welcome back.
Yes.
You know what? Let's welcome her back. Okay. Now, many of our audience members have actually read this book.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Was this the first one?
Yes, that's the first one.
What inspired this book?
I always thought I had a story to tell because I lived at a time, you know, the rock renaissance, and I was a woman enmeshed in the rock renaissance, and I wanted to tell it from a woman's perspective eventually. I always thought I'd fall back on my writing. I tried all kinds of other things first. I was an actress for a while, and I was in the band, and I've done all kinds of things. But then I got interviewed by Stephen Davis for a book called Hammer of the Gods about Led Zeppelin, and he said, "Why aren't you writing your own book?" So I thought, well, okay, I'm going to give it a try. And it took a long time to sell it. I was like one of the very first people who was a nobody to write a memoir. So I feel really good about opening doors for other people to tell their stories. That's one of the reasons I teach writing workshops too.
Now, I may not have this correct, but weren't you the inspiration of a character in a movie, a very popular movie, and all of a sudden I can't think of that name?
Almost Famous.
Almost Famous, okay.
I'm not happy with that movie.
Why?
Well, I feel like I was taken advantage of. My character was sort of trotted out there, a partial version of me, and it wasn't quite accurate. I would never, for instance, have tried to kill myself over any rock star. So that part really offended me and really upset me.
Okay. Did they come to you for any?
Cameron Crowe? No.
No?
I'm very
Okay.
angry at him.
Okay.
Actually, we made up. Cameron and I have made up. He's in the book, Let's Spend the Night Together. He's got the final chapter in there. He tried to make it up to me. And Kate, I went to the premiere.
Oh,
He
you're
invited me to
crossing
the
your
premiere.
hands. Look
That
at
was,
that.
yeah. Ooh, you're
Defensive.
right. You're right. You're right.
Okay.
Kate came up to me at the premiere and told me she read the book for inspiration. My pictures were all over her walls and everything. And I always felt like I should have been, you know, used in some way. But now I'm selling my own movie, finally. I've sold it many times, but it looks like it's finally going to get made.
Congratulations.
So we'll have the real story of the real groupie.
Okay. Would you have, yes. Looking back on your life as a groupie, would you have done anything differently? And what would you tell other girls wanting to be groupie, or maybe guys too? They're guys.
Oh yeah,
groupies
they're
too,
groupie
right?
guys. Yeah, just go for it. Don't hold back. Anything in life, don't let anything stop you, especially your own stupid thoughts. You know, you just have to do it. And I was very good at that. I definitely went after what I wanted.
Well,
back then.
the groupie today different than when you were doing it? Or the
A
same?
groupie heart is a groupie heart. You know, the love is there for the music. It's harder for them to meet the big stars now. Like, I mean, I could walk into the Whiskey and all of the Stones, all of the Byrds, Dylan, I mean, everybody would be there. It was a much easier time for much peace, love, and freedom. It was a real thing. So it's much harder now.
And tell us the story, because I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan's. I heard my brother actually told me that you gave him a story of Bob Dylan.
He's my hero, and I finally got to spend some quality time with him. And I gave him I'm With the Band to read, my first book.
When was this, by the way?
This
when
was
you met Bob
about,
Dylan?
it's 30 years ago, and
Okay.
so I guess it was about 26, 27 years ago.
Okay.
I gave it to him at a party that I got to go to at his house, that's another whole story. But he invited me to a gig, and I walked backstage, and he opened his arms up like this and said, "Pam, I read your book cover to cover, and you're a good writer." So that was it.
Great compliment.
That's better than any other thing that could have happened.
He's a
So-
Nobel laureate, so
yeah,
that
I
means
know.
a
It was
lot,
so
doesn't it?
exciting. That was the best. I could have dropped dead right then.
I'm so glad you
I'm
didn't.
glad I didn't, but yeah, it was
So,
a good moment.
Going back about if you had to do anything over, what would you do differently, if anything?
I might take less drugs. It was kind of a drug culture, so there are things I can't remember as well as I would.
Well, who helps you with your memory back then?
I have to do it all myself. Well, my diaries. You know, I kept diaries. Thank God, I kept copious diaries and journals.
And do you go back to those to form these
Oh
books?
yes, of course. Yeah. Well, I had to for I'm With the Band.
Okay, well look, this is your most recent book, and I know you're writing another, but tell us about this book there that I'm showing now.
Well, this is, you know, my book about writing a memoir. It's prompts and you know, all kinds of ideas on how to write your own life, because I think it's important to do that. No matter who you're going to share it with, or if you're going to try to get it published, but it's a really important thing to get your feelings about yourself out, you know, and share it. Share.
And I noticed that many of the workshops you do, you actually take the books and you're reading from the books,
Well,
passages?
well, I do a lot of readings anyway, all over the place, from all my books, and people come and applaud me.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting, Pamela, though, is that when I told people you were going to be on,
Yeah.
just the myriad of what you were like. Nobody knew you. They read your books or they heard about you. But what do you think people, how do you think people perceive you today?
Wow.
We got about a minute
Well,
left on the show.
You know, like I said, the G word has been exploited and maligned, and some people still think of me as that person. If they haven't read the books, you know, it's a whole different level. If they've read them, they know I'm just a person, you know, like them, you know. But I just happen to love music like crazy, and I still do. And I really don't know. I hope people just think I'm a decent human being and doing the best I can, you know.
And we love having you here.
Oh,
Time
thank
goes
you,
by
Ken.
so quickly,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Pamela Des Barres. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, this is Pamela, yes, everybody. Very nice. Wow. Okay, well, that's it for our show. That's it for our show tonight. Next week, actress Joanna Cassidy will be here. So that should be a great show. You wouldn't want to miss that. So far, our guest Pamela Des Barres and our director Nick Freddy and the entire KBL crew and our audience here. I'm Ken Boxer. Good night, everybody. Thank you so very much for being here.
Ken Boxer Live is brought to you by the following sponsors. Terry Ryken, your broker with a personal touch for all your real estate needs. Gustafson Dance, meeting the highest standards in dance training. Palazzo Italian Restaurant, people don't leave there hungry or thirsty. The Eagle Inn, a family-owned hotel near the beach in Santa Barbara. Patrini's Family Restaurant, La Quinta Inn and Suites. Taffy's Pizza, delivery, pickup, or dine in. Country Catering, Meat Market and Deli. Lido's Takeout. Jack's Bagels and Bistro. The Ken Boxer Live musical theme composed and arranged by Mr. Michael J. Leslie. From all of us at Ken Boxer Live, I'm Baron Ron Heron. Good night, everyone.